Question 16. The passage suggests that Alzheimer's disease is overdiagnosed and misdiagnosed because, and as you can see, the answer is G, its symptoms are like those of several other diseases. Okay, let's go to the passage. Here it says the answer is found in paragraph 6, right? You have to keep in mind that there are mistakes sometimes, whether it's the person typing up the exam or the creator of the exam counting the paragraphs incorrectly, and but you should be able to detect it, especially if you've annotated, and so it'll be easy to keep track of which paragraph is which, and from my side notes or annotations, I could easily spot that the answer is directly stated in paragraph 7. Paragraph 7, the key point of paragraph 7 is that Alzheimer's is the most misdiagnosed and overdiagnosed disorder of mental functioning in older adults. And here it specifically states part of the problem already alluded to, and it's already alluded to in several places in this reading, is that many other disorders show symptoms that resemble those of Alzheimer's disease, and that matches G. Its symptoms are like those of several other diseases, and this is another example of why it's important to know the reading as a whole. And the reading as a whole, in several places, it tells us that that's one of the problems with diagnosing Alzheimer's disease. That there are other diseases with similar symptoms, and which is why it's important to exclude, to rule out these other diseases that have similar symptoms. These other diseases that resemble Alzheimer's disease. So, and this is why it's frustrating, as the author mentions, as I noted here, and it's right here in the paragraph. It's frustrating for the patient and family because it's because of having to systematically rule out these other diseases that resemble Alzheimer's disease, and there are other places too up here where the author tells us of certain disorders that mimic Alzheimer's disease, and so clearly that's the answer, that Alzheimer's symptoms are like those of several other diseases, and that's one of the reasons why it's overly diagnosed and misdiagnosed. So out of the 4 answers, this would be the best answer. Just to be sure, let's rule out the other choices. F. This disease is overdiagnosed and misdiagnosed because the medical research is still in its infancy. Clearly, this cannot be correct if you look back at specifically paragraph 1. Alzheimer's disease was first discovered and reported in 1906. So it's been studied since 1906, which is more than 100 years ago. So clearly, choice F cannot be correct. Alzheimer's disease is not. Alzheimer's research is not in its infancy if it's been studied ever since 1906. Choice H and J can easily be ruled out because there's nowhere in the article tells us that inflated statistics will increase funds allocated to Alzheimer's research, and nowhere in the article tells us that the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease vary from person to person. So these two choices, can they be true? Maybe, but it's not in this reading. This reading does not tell us about inflated statistics to increase funding to this research, and the article does not tell us anything about the variation or how the symptoms vary from patient to patient. And the only way that you can rule them out is to go through the whole article again. At least go through your annotations or your side notes. Go through each paragraph to make sure, to confirm that those two choices are not mentioned in the article anywhere. And I've looked through it, and I'm certain that they're not, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go through the whole article yourself to make sure. So now that I've ruled out F, H, and J, so now I'm 100% sure that G is the best answer.